think I've always been a conscious consumer, and it possibly started for me when the French government sunk the Rainbow Warrior in New Zealand. And I wasn't living in Australia at the time. But from that day, I boycotted all things French. My favourite perfume was French, and I would no longer purchase that. And I think that incident changed my purchasing, my consumerism, and changed my behaviour.
I've been on an environmental path for decades, actually, which was started by the climate change issue, I think. And so I've been aware of that for much longer than perhaps the average person. And when I had grandchildren, I think that might have been a real watershed moment when the grandchildren started coming along, and I started getting tremendously concerned about the world they were going to inherit.
Living simply has been one of my approaches to life. I very much like making repairs of things so that they keep working. I'm a bit of an avid non-consumer as far as things like clothes are concerned. I'd much rather darn a holes in a sweater that I've had for 20 years rather than buying a new one.
I think one of the reasons that perhaps the older generations are more attuned to these issues is because they've been part of the problem. It's our generations that have created the situation that the younger generations are now living with and are going to have to resolve.
Well, I think as far as climate change and environment, which obviously are interrelated, I think they're starting to realise that even from a bottom line point of view, it's the way to go, and that every decision that they make needs to have a environmental and climate change aspect to it.
My opinion differs then from most baby boomers. In fact, I agree that businesses are now want to be seen to be or perceived as having a much more environmentally conscious image. But I would call that greenwashing to a large extent, and it's all motivated by money, I feel, in that they won't succeed unless they adopt these practices. Think about future generations before you make any decision. That should be at the forefront of your mind.
The most spectacular failures in corporate history don't stem from companies whose products or services have failed because their widgets didn't work. Most spectacular corporate failures stem from a failure in their corporate social responsibility, whether it's environmental degradation or workforce exploitation, whatever the issue, it has brought down the largest of companies. So it's time to change. Shareholders are now demanding accountability. Consumers are now demanding accountability. And we're demanding that the companies that we do business with reflect the values that we hold.